Hi guys, I'm just gonna get started. I see people trickling in. So, like Gabby said, I'm Rakesh Raju. I'm the CTO and co-founder of TraceSense. It's a startup based in New York, and my co-founders and I have long experience in the games and online space, online monetization. So we looked pretty hard for a long time on at what are some of the ways in which we could build a company around the around casual games. We looked at the current pain points for in the entire ecosystem, developers, distributors, and after a while we got convinced that mobile web is the area that we wanted to focus on. So the conclusion that we came to is that the mobile web is really probably the biggest opportunity for our industry ever, and I'll explain how we came to that conclusion and what it means for us. It's really based on two beliefs. The first is that the variety of devices that we play games on is going to increase. Nothing radical there. It's pretty obvious. But it's not until recently that some of the more common devices like phones have become first class gaming platforms. So anyway, the first observation for us was that this variety is just going to increase from computers, phones, tablets, TVs, whatnot. The second observation, it says the web always wins. Um, that's our second observation, and it sort of doesn't feel like that on the mobile platform right now, but we've seen this before. We've seen it on the desktop. I mean, it's not that long ago that games used to mostly be downloads. You know, this is, but now it's mostly all browser based, right? It's now mostly games are pretty much on, at least on the desktop, consumed entirely on browsers. Yeah, so on desktop, the web is used pretty much for everything, right? From discovery to distribution. I mean, play games. Mostly people play games in the browser. So even the runtime is web-based. Monetization. It's because it's made for search and discovery. And the power of the browsers is pretty high. So end to end, the web has proved to be a pretty robust gaming platform on the desktop, right? Including for this transition to games as a service. So yeah, the desktop games used to pretty much all be apps, and now they're mostly web. And whatever happened on desktop is happening on mobile. The web always wins. So yeah, so what happened on desktop is happening on mobile, except faster and much bigger, right? The upside right now is crazy. The smartphone adoption is going to go from 1 to 5 billion or something in the next few years. And with this all stuff we know, consumers are moving to smartphones and tablets pretty rapidly. and this is set to overtake desktop usage. So we kind of know all this. We also know that users are no longer married to one device, right? We expect their content to be available wherever they are. Because this is true, convenience, always beats performance, right? It's disruption. So meanwhile, here's some other things we're seeing, right? In our industry, it says even though games are the most consumed content on mobile, and consumers have moved to mobile, but a lot of the content has not. So who cares about this? Developers care, right? Game dev is challenging, it's costly as it is. And the economics of game development is tough for all players. This move to mobile is no different. In fact, it's much worse. Marketing costs are just skyrocketing. Can't see that, but Cut the Rope version 1, the launch costs were like $0. Version 2, the launch was like $1 million. So that's, I thought that was pretty crazy, but not really surprising. Game marketing costs for the sort of the top end of the games in 2009 were around $500,000, pretty high. In 2013, it's like gone up 10x, and this is from the Wall Street Journal. And we know this working in the industry. The marketing costs have just gone through the roof, right? I mean, this just blew my mind. Customer acquisition costs up until January of this year, so that's customer acquisition, was around 50 cents. In May, it's gone as high as $7. So I can't even believe this, but it's true. So this is obviously because the App Store honeymoon is over. There's a million apps on the App Store, but just because your app is in the App Store doesn't mean it's going to get discovered, right? So this combination of high fees and poor discoverability, it's just a disaster. Because everyone's moving to mobile, but game business economics are really unsustainable. So developers care. Every year there's a super hit or 2 or 3, but that's not necessarily great for the entire industry. Big media cares. I mean, they had a great games business. A lot of them, they have large audiences. Right? They want to own the relationship with their audiences. They have shows. They have huge properties. But their users are forced to go to the App Store, to the app stores, where these media companies have to pay for downloads, first of all, on top of the App Store fees. It's really not great, especially given the discoverability problem. So we're in New York, so we're constantly communicating with the media companies and networks, and they're all, without exception, looking for ways to extend their popular desktop games to mobile. And they're really struggling with this whole App Store model, and it's hurting them because not only is their desktop web games business revenue, but it's also huge for promotion. Game portals, I mean, this is the saddest thing. I took out the name of the company, but just enter the name of any of your favorite desktop game portals on in Quantcast, and you'll see a very similar graph. That's not made up. It's down from 5 million to 3 million in less than a year. So these businesses, if they don't go to mobile, they're pretty much going to disappear, right? So they care deeply about this. I mean, for them, it's like a complete existential threat for these businesses. I mean, mobile traffic to these portals is increasing. You know, they talk to us all the time, but there's no content. You go to any so people are going to the popular game portals on their phones. They're just seeing please download Flash, message. And game portals, even if they wanted to, they can't take their portal business and move to the App Store, right? It's just not even allowed. It's just iTunes or App Store policy. So they care a lot about this whole situation. Social networks have pretty much the same problem as game portals. Their audiences are going to mobile like crazy, and there's no content for them on mobile. They're trying various things. They're trying partnerships with the app stores, but there's really no frictionless way for the consumer to play games right within their network, with their monetization systems. So there's a problem for them. Carriers, these guys are old school. They have the largest audience, completely frictionless payment systems, but they no longer are the owner of any major app store. They used to be, right? That's where you got all your games, all your mobile games from. So for them, their strategy, they need a strategy that's outside of this. And when we talk to them, they are very interested in, they're going ahead and executing many initiatives on the mobile web just so that they can be back in this business. Also, brands and agencies. Brands have a big problem, enormous challenge on mobile with brand advertising. Right? It's a well-known mobile problem, a big problem, no less. And what brands need to do is they need to connect directly with their consumers, right? But currently, and the consumers are all on mobile, but currently the friction in the UX and the discoverability problem is really hurting them. 80% of apps have less than 1,000 installed. 80% of branded apps. So this is not working for brands. So when we talk to agencies and brands, they're very interested in coming up with ways where they can do branded advertising and engage their customers in a deep and meaningful way. And finally, consumers care, right? Because they're the ones who are subsidizing the high cost of all this stuff, the high cost of development, and they're putting up with this distorted pricing and the distortions it's really causing to game design. And it's also limiting because consumers really want content wherever they are, and a lot of times there isn't any. And they want to use familiar web-based browser principles of search and social discovery. That's how we're used to finding content. And we can't use that exactly on mobile yet. So The solution really is the mobile web. It's something we've seen that works on desktop really great, and there's no reason for it not to work on mobile as well. And it's completely disruptive, meaning, you know, it's not as performant necessarily, but it's way convenient. It's cheaper, more convenient, even if less performant. And even the performance issues are you know, diminishing every day. But a couple of things have accelerated this whole process even further. One, of course, is this whole discoverability problem. And the second is the fact that there's no plugin architecture, and there's no Flash or Unity for the mobile web, things like that. So as a result, now there's really, so a lot of the businesses that I mentioned, they pretty much don't even have a choice. You know, they either go to the mobile web or they go out of business. The mobile web has its challenges. It definitely does, but it's changing. Now, you know, there's an ecosystem of tools and solution providers. There are plenty of companies making game engines to help you with creation, lots of tools, tool companies. There are companies like ours, like Tracensa, that help with distribution of mobile game content. There are companies that are focused on monetization. That we do that as well. The runtime for the mobile web is definitely getting better. So it's viable today. The mobile web as a gaming platform is viable today. On at least on the iPhone, the new Androids, Kindles, and it's accelerating. You know, major players across the ecosystem are lending their muscle, whether it's browser developers, device makers. You know, the browser developers are continuously trying to make sure that the browsers can do as much as the hardware can. On iOS, it's pretty good. On Android, it's getting better. The high-end Androids, Chrome, it's fantastic. Some of the newer developments are very promising. And we're talking about weeks and months, not, you know, years before these changes hit the marketplace. Some really big announcements are going to be coming pretty much this summer, which has the potential of completely changing the landscape here when it comes to mobile web browsers. Device makers as well, you know, they're very interested in improving the mobile web runtime. There are game engines, like I said, that allow you to create all kinds of content. All of them have, you know, different bias. Some of them are more focused towards one type of game versus another. You know, even up to a genre. And there are platforms that are very exciting, which allow the complete end-to-end development, distribution, deployment of games. We're trying to build one of those ourselves. That's our focus. It's distribution. But essentially, what we've got going on is our platform is that thing in the middle. So the way we work is we aggregate game content, and, you know, once it's built on our platform, it essentially goes out to all to various endpoints, whether it's media properties, social networks, native app stores, game portals, and from there it reaches all devices, so audiences everywhere. the cool thing about this is there's a lot of interaction between these destinations. So you may have an app in the App Store, but it could get discovered on the mobile web. So in this way, you're not sort of leaving anyone or any revenue on the table. You can't really read this, but what we provide are the technical and business integrations. So a service like this, takes care of all the grunt work of integrating with all these distribution endpoints like the social networks and the native app stores, so that the game developer can just focus on making the game. And that's something we've been doing, all year long, all of last year, and we've learned a lot. It's a very painful, not a very fun activity when you compare it to making games or even making game engines. But it's absolutely the most important piece necessary in order to provide for a very scalable distribution solution. And that's how you get the widest reach. Half the slide is chopped off, but it just shows how your content, the same source code, the same one source, one game, ends up everywhere. It ends up on portals, Facebook, even Twitter, where you can play the game right in the tweet, because it's just a link, right? There's a whole bunch of new mobile social networks coming up. Many of them are monetizing or planning to monetize through games, primarily, because that's the most popular activity on their networks. So these games get published there as well. And finally, to the native app stores. The real bonus here is that when you build a game for the mobile web, it automatically ends up good enough to go to app stores to become native games. And these are not mini games. These are games with dozens of levels, virtual goods, leaderboards, all the stuff you expect from casual games. And on the platforms, there's integration with currencies, the user system, social network. So what I'm saying is mobile web games today are really not lacking in any way compared to their counterparts on the desktop or in the app stores when it comes to the breadth of functionality. Well, this is a screenshot from one of the games that a studio we work with is developing. It's a game called Run and Bun. It's in beta. Okay, I'm just going to run through a demo. I'm not sure if it'll play, but that's sad. Well, there's a video clip here that's not playing, but essentially what we have in this video are 3 games that we built. The first one is Run and Bun, which was made by Mondo Studios, the creators of Happy Tree Friends. And after that, I was going to show a game made by a brand, which was Despicable Me, the film, new film coming out, as well as Progressive. So they used our technology to make a branded game that they could get out on the mobile web. It was really great for them because they didn't have to submit the app, wait for Apple to approve it, and this way they could really time the campaign. So making games with the mobile web is possible, but only if it's optimized for the mobile web. I mean, it's very easy to just use HTML5 and JavaScript and just have it not really work well across all devices. So it's very important that the game actually be optimized for the mobile web. But how do you do that? Well, just you could learn how to do it, or use a framework that's optimized for the mobile web, right? So that's what we're building. We call it TGE, for Trace Insight Game Engine. So we provide tools across the whole process of content creation, packaging, distribution, monetization. And and these are all componentized tools. So you could use our engine or any engine, but it has to be optimized for the mobile web. That means it should know about things like different screen sizes, different devices. There's a lot of fragmentation in the mobile space, and there's no point making a game if it doesn't work or doesn't work really well on a bunch of devices, right? The other thing you need are obviously mobile web optimized monetization and backend services. That's another thing we make, which we call it TGS, for Trace Insight Game Services. But you'll need a framework that helps you doing things like integrating with the various media properties, game portals, etc., as well as providing some kind of virtual goods or advertising service. And of course, you'll need services like analytics, hosting, all that stuff. So there are frameworks that do provide it. That's kind of what I'm trying to say, is all these components, they exist today. And then, of course, you need something that'll actually package it for the various distribution endpoints, whether it's mobile web, desktop web, App Store A, B, C. And this is the way you maximize reach. This is the way your content doesn't sink or swim based on how it does in one destination. So developers, the ones who feel the most pain in this whole process, they're reaching out to us, and they're seeing success. Distribution services are happy now. They get content, and when people are hitting their sites on mobile, they're able to serve them some content. Media properties like this because they're able to keep their audience engaged. And brands and agencies, they can connect with their users with the #1 activity on mobile, which is gaming. So there's a huge and growing demand linked to smartphone growth, and the ecosystem for that is ready. We thought it would be ready a year from now or something, but it's come ahead of schedule. And there's a reason for that. It's there's a lot of different pressure points economically, technically. So that's good news. I mean, it's the largest gaming platform in history, and it's going to have the lowest marketing costs because it's based on the web-based discovery. Development costs for this are going to be the lowest because you don't need any proprietary system. You can use any hardware, any software, any OS. I mean, it's all based on open standards. It's not. You don't have to pay any company a license. So marketing costs go down, development costs go down, and with maximizing the reach, the risk itself goes down. This is obviously, increasing your chances of success, at least to be viable. The limitation that we see, the only limitation is imagination. So let's reimagine games. Thank you.